Peace, everyone. How you doing? Welcome to the show. The show title is Why I Believe Khalil Money 100 is My Thorn. For Christ's body's sake, according to the Bible. Now, I'm supposed to have a reader here tonight. He might call me earlier, but I was asleep. So let's proceed on with the show. I have a computer reading, as always, when I don't have a reader. So we're going to start at this right here.
Intro, peace and blessings to everyone watching Israel Doctrine. Today, I want to discuss a serious topic that has been part of a long-running debate involving hip-hop, accountability, child protection, and the responsibility we have as believers to stand for truth.
We have as it said, believers standing for truth. If you believe in the Lord God of Israel, you got to stand for truth, people. I believe that all my life. And I stood on truth all my life. So I never had a reason to lie about anything.
The Israel of God, the mixed multitude, the church is under attack. This is my introduction to how Israel Doctrine Entertainment LLC and my recently expanded online ministries as the True Israel of God, short for the Israel of God, the mixed multitude, the church has been under attack by Hebrew Israelites and former Hebrew Israelites.
Hebrew Israelites and former Hebrew Israelites. Y'all have seen me fight for years and argue for years against Hebrew Israelites because I've never believed in it. But yet and still, ex-former Hebrew Israelite of Yahweh ben Yahweh by the name of Khalil Money has tried to be a thorn in my side ever since 2018. But let's keep going.
The title of this episode is Why I Believe Khalil Money 100 is My Thorn for Christ's body's sake.
For Christ's body's sake. Now, prior to Khalil Money becoming my thorn, I had another thorn by the name of Michael the RBG Hebrew, who was a Hebrew Israelite that was a part of the government intelligence called the Hebrew War Machine. And if you know anything about the Israelite Christian Iron Man, Carl Albert Davis, then you should know about the Hebrew War Machine, which is the government operating in the black community. Right? So let's go a little further and deal with this. We'll have a computer read some more.
When the Apostle Paul talked about his thorn in the flesh, he explained that some struggles are allowed to remain as a reminder that God's strength is made perfect through weakness. My point today is not about personal hatred toward any individual.
Not personal hatred towards any individual. I don't have the right to hate nobody, but it's people believe they had a right to hate on me, and they do.
My focus is on ideas, arguments, and what I believe are important questions that deserve answers. It is important for those who view this to be given the knowledge of who the culprits are from the current to the former, and how it has been many Hebrew Israelites and former Hebrew Israelites that have systematically attempted to tear down those who claim to be Israelite Christians.
Israelite Christian, because I took this terminology on due to my friend, the digital pit boss. I was an Israelite, he was a Christian, and he kept talking against the Hebrew Israelites and this and that and Christian. I just merged the two in real time. I became an Israelite Christian because I believed on the death of Jesus Christ, the birth of Jesus Christ by his virgin mother, so on and so forth. I just had to use the term.
What is the real debate?
So, what is the real debate, though, people? We'll find that out as the computer continues to read. And with that, we'll get what we need so the computer can read.
We begin with the recent attacks of the man people know as Khalil Amani, formerly Khalil Ashanti, also known as Lloyd Rodney Clark. Khalil Amani, a former member of the Miami-based Hebrew Israelite cult under the leadership of Yahya ben Yahya, has been dispatched to attack God's church. For a period beginning roughly around late 2018 to 2024, Khalil Amani has made numerous attempts to discredit and spread misinformation and disinformation against me, Carl Albert Davis of the True Israel of God, Israel Doctrine Entertainment LLC, and many of my supporters. The question I want to bring before the audience is simple. Are we discussing adult relationships and personal choices, or are we discussing allegations involving minors and the protection of children?
So, whenever Khalil Amani addresses me, he needs to address this statement. Because all I've been talking about is allegations involving minors and the protection of children. All he's been talking about is relationships and personal choices of grown-ups in the LGBTQIA plus community. He didn't think they was gonna add that P or that plus, pederasty and pedophilia, to the LGBTQ community, but they did add it because I prophesied. But I want to be called, from their perspective, a false prophet. When I told the world in 2016 that I was being stalked and profiled as an Israelite, and I was being stalked and profiled, but Khalil Amani came along and made the prophecy, the statement, real. I had Hebrew Israelite buddies, even a couple that I may have called friend, a brother, but they weren't believing what I was telling them at the time. I bet you today they like, oh, everything he said at that lecture came true.
Those are two completely different conversations. When allegations involve children, the conversation must remain focused on
The conversation must remain focused on what it must remain focused on, Khalil Amani. You cannot change the conversation. You cannot get me into the LGBTQIA plus argument unless we deal with the plus.
protecting victims, seeking truth, investigating evidence, and holding anyone accountable who harms children. The issue should never be confused with debates about consenting adults.
Never confuse it that Khalil Amani wants to debate consenting adults doing what consenting LGBTQIA plus people do. I don't have time to argue or debate that. My argument and debate is for children and the protection of children and those that's out here allowing children to be harmed and everything else when they're claiming to be Child USA and everything else. They're supposed to protect children. They're not protecting children. They're running around with people that are neglecting protection for children.
The Afrika Bambaataa discussion for years. There have been public allegations and debates surrounding Afrika Bambaataa and members of the Universal Zulu Nation. Different people have presented different accounts, claims, and interpretations. My concern is that the discussion has often shifted away from the question of child protection and toward arguments about sexuality, culture, and identity. The question remains, how do we make sure the voices of alleged victims are not ignored? How do we make sure conversations about abuse are not redirected into another topic?
So this also goes for one of the so-called victims who said Bambaataa like women. He's putting up photographs and stuff. His name is Ron Savage. Do I have an issue with Ron Savage? No. But Ron Savage tries to make the argument that Bambaataa like women. But you said you was running around at 15 years old, underage, lying to Bambaataa, telling him you was older and you was having sexual relationship with him. And that's what it's about. Children. And you was a child. So I don't want to hear that argument and all that stuff. Y'all keep deflecting the conversation from the 2013-year-old victim in which Bam gave a picture to her son Khalil to kill, and nobody wants to really deal with that. When Ron made a video asking for the boy.
My concerns about moving the conversation, my criticism is that I believe the conversation has been redirected. Instead of focusing on allegations involving minors and accountability, the discussion has moved toward questions about homosexuality and adult relationships. Those topics are not the same. A conversation about protecting children should always remain centered on children. A conversation about adults making personal choices is a separate discussion.
Separate discussion. Stop moving that young man age and everything else to deflect from the fact that Bambaataa was out here harming children. And we know that by Ron Savage's statement himself.
Why I compare this to Paul's thorn, the reason I use the phrase thorn is because sometimes God allows difficult people and difficult situations to challenge us. Paul said, "Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ." 2 Timothy 2:3, KJV. The believer's responsibility is not to respond with hatred, but with truth, patience, and discipline. The goal is not destruction of people. The goal is exposing what we believe is wrong and standing for righteousness. The bigger picture.
The bigger picture, people. Something that I have lost sight of due to the fact I'm being stalked and harassed by LGBTQIA plus people that's afraid to even argue or debate LGBTQIA plus stuff. When I first met Khalil Money back in 2017, I asked that brother to debate the topic of LGBTQIA plus stuff. He didn't want to debate with me. He wanted to debate with Polite, who's a child abuser. See, that's what the topic should be about, but he made it about LGBTQIA plus stuff because he became a hateful witness or whatever the term is. I don't know the terminology. I don't do court and all that stuff. Never have. Can't say I never will, because Lady Wills pulled me into a strategic lawsuit against public participation because she wanted to cover up the fact that Bambaataa was out here abusing children.
This conversation is bigger than one person. It is about truth in media, responsibility in hip-hop culture, protecting children, listening to survivors, and making sure serious accusations are handled properly. Everyone deserves fairness. Everyone deserves the opportunity to present evidence. But children deserve protection above everything else. The term Black identity extremist was introduced by the Federal Bureau of Investigation some years back as a means to profile certain religious groups, including those who identify themselves under terms like Hebrew Israelite or Black Hebrew Israelite, as domestic terrorists. I, who has been a law-abiding citizen, has never been one to preach or to teach hate against any other race or nationality akin to what many Hebrew Israelite or Black Hebrew Israelite congregations promote.
They promote that. I've never promoted that. One of my biggest topics in the community is that others can get salvations too. So I've never tried to block that conversation and steal that argument and find basic Roman Catholic Christians to come on this platform and argue and debate it. They never argued and debate that with me. Tazariak ran from it on Clubhouse. Other Hebrew Israelites went under his guidance. Don't argue or debate with me. And that's been it through the years. Because no one can argue and debate that.
Outro. This is Israel Doctrine. I want everyone watching to think critically, study the facts, and seek truth. The Bible tells us, prove all things, hold fast that which is good. 1 Thessalonians 5:21, KJV. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and become part of the conversation. This is Israel Doctrine, standing for truth in these YouTube streets.
With that said, people, I appreciate your participation. I would like to play this song in the outro. Please leave your comments under the video.